This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. With free weekly content and free shipping over $100, you can save 5% site-wide by using the promo code MTGMuddstah. I'm also sponsored by Face to Face Games, Canada's premier Magic the Gathering store. Using the promo code MTGMuddstah will get you 5% off site-wide, with eligible orders getting free shipping Canada-wide. If you're looking for a direct way to help the channel, please consider joining my Patreon and becoming a member of the generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game of Modern with Muddstah is filmed in my studio space after having a new overlay built just for this. I've got Sam joining me, and he's playing Goblins, which is near and dear to my heart. The deck runs Aether Vials and cheats out creatures for value, and has a couple combo pieces while trying to simultaneously overrun your opponent with Goblin creatures. It's focused in red and black and gets to run a lot of fun cards like Skirk Prospector and some of the better lords. I am playing Dredge, which actually is all but green in terms of colors, and I'm trying to replace my draws with returning Stinkweed Imps to my hand. The payoff for doing so is getting some free creatures like Narcomoeba, Prized Amalgam, and a Silver Smoke Ghoul. I've also got some sweet life gain with Creeping Chills, which I never actually have to cast. Starting off round 1, Sam is on the play, and we both end up mulliganing a few times, with Sam going down to 6, while I'm left with what I hope to be an explosive 5. Sam is on the play, so he plays a Cavern of Souls, naming Goblins, and then taps it for an Aether Vial. My turn has an untapped Steam Vents coming in, which has me taking 2, and I pass. Sam adds a counter to his vial in his upkeep, draws, and plays a Mountain. He drops a Runedeveloped Hordemaster, and passes. During his end step, I cast an Otherworldly Gaze, looking at my top 3, and putting in your graveyard a Prized Amalgam and a Stinkweed Imp. I draw, play, and crack an Arid Mesa, going to find a Sacred Foundry and losing the full 3. I then pay 1 and a red for a Cathartic Reunion, discarding a Silver Smoke Ghoul and a Dark Blast. I replace my first draw by dredging a Stinkweed Imp to hand and mill 5. I replace the second with a Dark Blast, dredging 3. I replace the last draw with a second Dark Blast, binning 3 more. Having not really hit any of my enablers, I just ship the turn to Sam. Sam adds his second counter to his vial and draws. He then goes to combat and hits me for 1 and passes. For my draw step, I dredge back a Golgari Thug instead of drawing, binning 4 cards. I hit a Narcomoeba, which gives me a few delayed triggers from the Prized Amalgams in my graveyard. In my main phase, I then pay 2 red to escape my Ox of Aganos, exiling 8 cards from my graveyard. Responding to the End of the Battlefield trigger, Sam uses the vial to put out a Mogg War Marshal and makes a Goblin token. He then flashes out a Munitions Expert and takes out the Ox with the Goblins Enter the Battlefield effect by dealing 3 to it. I still get to discard my hand though, and then move to draw 3, which I replace with dredges. I replace my first draw with a Stinkweed Imp, dredging 5, and I hit a Narcomoeba in it. I then dredge another Stinkweed Imp for another 5, hitting a third Narcomoeba. My last draw is replaced by Golgari Thug, and I've still hit no Creeping Chills after I dredge 4. I then pass to my end step, getting to put to field 3 of my Prized Amalgams. Sam adds another counter to his vial in his upkeep, and then doesn't pay for the echo cost of his War Marshal, sacrificing it and making a token, but he also gets to exile his top card from the Hordemaster, seeing a Goblin die. He exiles a Goblin Matron, and then draws for turn. He plays another Hordemaster, and then just passes. My turn, I dredge back another Thug, binning 4 cards, and hitting my last Narcomoeba. I then use the Ox's escape ability in my main phase, paying 2 red and exiling 8 more cards. It comes in with a +1/+1 counter, and I discard my hand. I dredge back my first Stinkweed, and hit 1 Creeping Chill in the 5, draining Sam for 3. I dredge back a second Stinkweed Imp, and hit a second Creeping Chill. I then count out my deck before deciding on my third dredge, but with 8 cards left, I go for broke, dredging another Stinkweed Imp for 5 more. In this 5, I hit another Creeping Chill and a Prized Amalgam. Moving to combat, I swing the Narcomoebas and Amalgam at Sam. Sam blocks all 3 of the prized Amalgams and takes 3 in the air. He also exiles his top 6 cards from the Hordemaster triggers, seeing the other goblins die. Moving to my end step, I get the 4 ghouls and 1 Amalgam, with the 3 remaining Amalgams getting a delayed trigger to come back on Sam's end step. Sam also uses this as a chance to use his vial, putting out a Bogart Harbinger, and goes into his library to find a copy of Sling Gang Lieutenant, putting it on top. Sam's vial goes to 4 in his upkeep, and he casts a Conspicuous Snoop in his main phase, revealing a mountain off the top. He then passes, and the cards exiled from the Hordemaster during my turn are gone forever. At the end of his turn, I get back 3 Amalgams. I draw 1 of my 3 remaining cards and just go to combat. I swing all out, and before moving to blocks, Sam uses the vial to put out the Sling Gang Lieutenant and makes 2 tokens as it enters. He moves to blocks, putting something in front of all of the Amalgams and 2 of my ghouls. Before damage, he sacrifices 1 of the tokens to the Sling Gang, draining me for 1 and exiling his top 2 cards from the Hordemaster triggers. He does this again with the next token, exiling 2 and draining me again. He does it with the Harbinger, exiling 2 and draining me again. Then one of the Hordemasters, exiling 2 and draining me again. He has to think at this point, and then does it for the second Hordemaster. He's still taking 10, and Sam knows he can't win on his next turn, nor stop me, and decides to scoop it up at this point. Moving to sideboards, Sam brings in 4 copies of Surgical Extraction and 2 copies of Leyline of the Void. For my sideboard, I bring in a copy of Ancient Grudge and 2 Portable Holes. Moving to Game 2, Sam and I both keep our opening 7, with Sam being on the play again this time. He plays a Bloodstained Mire. I play a Gemstone Mine, adding 3 counters. At the end of my turn, Sam cracks his Mire to find a Blood Crypt. Sam draws and plays a Mountain, tapping 2 red for a Snoop. He reveals a Mogg War Marshal off the top and passes. My turn has another Gemstone coming in, and I remove 2 counters from them to help cast a Thrilling Discovery. I gain 2 life and discard a Stinkweed Imp and a Golgari Thug. I hit 1 Creeping Chill in my first 5, and replace the second draw with another Stinkweed Imp. This time I hit another Creeping Chill and a Narcomoeba. I then dredge back my Golgari Thug, hitting a 3rd chill. With the first chill trigger on the stack, Sam uses Surgical Extraction, paying the Phyrexian cost and losing 2 life, to exile all of them, and the 1 in my library. We then move to my end step, and I get to bring back the 1 prized Amalgam I dredged into my graveyard. Sam draws and reveals another Surgical Extraction off the top. He plays a tap Blood Crypt, and then casts a Mogg War Marshal, making a token as it enters. He passes after that. I dredge back a Golgari Thug instead of drawing, and then use the escape ability of the Ox of Agonus in my main phase after exiling 8 cards. I then discard my hand and start replacing some of the draws with dredges. I dredge my first draw with a Stinkweed Imp, and my second is also replaced by a Stinkweed Imp. And I decide to finish off the draws with a hat trick of Stinkweed Imps. I get 1 Narcomoeba from the 15 cards I just dumped into my graveyard, and then just move to combat. I swing my previously cast Narcomoeba at Sam for 1, and at my end step, bring back another Amalgam and pass. Sam draws his Extraction and reveals a Mountain. He plays a Prismatic Vista and cracks it to find a Mountain, shuffling away the top card. This time around, he reveals an Aether Vial. Sam then casts a Rundvelt Hordemaster, passing it back to me. I dredge back a Thug instead of drawing, hitting another Amalgam, and a Ghoul who will very likely not come back. I then decide to go full Legacy using my last 2 counters on the mine to escape my second Ox, and I go full Manaless Dredge at this point. I discard my hand, and just draw 3 since I can't really hit any chills at this point. I then move to combat, and swing the team at Sam. Sam blocks 1 of the Amalgams and an Ox, but still takes 2 in the air and 3 from the Amalgam that isn't blocked. And exiles his top 2. He also gets to make another token as the War Marshal dies. We then move to my end step, and I move to bring back another Amalgam, but Sam is ready with Surgical, paying 2 life to exile it instead. Sam just draws and reveals a Cavern of Souls, he then plays a Swamp and casts an Aether Vial and passes. I untap and draw. I still have no lands, so the only thing I can turn sideways are my creatures, and I move to attacks. Sam blocks the 2 Oxes and an Amalgam, but still takes 5. He exiles his top 3 as the Goblins die, and I pass to Sam. Sam adds a counter to the Vial and draws. He can't make enough blockers to survive though, and I win the round. Game review time. So game 1 I think was a pretty good showing for both of our decks. I got to dredge a ton of sweet creatures, although early on it seemed like I was just filling up my graveyard, but it did pay off in the end. I really enjoy the resiliency of the deck, and you don't really need to think about attacking, since most of the time, even if you do lose some creatures during the attack step, they'll come back at the next end step, or the one after that. On the flip side, the deck that I thought would have been pretty much burr attack, Goblins, actually required a lot more thought. You really have to think about stuff like what counters to put into the Aether Vial, and when to sacrifice creatures because you could lose stuff permanently because of the Horde Master exiling a creature. I find I'm really struggling against hate pieces, and losing the Creeping Chills early on against Sam in the second game really felt like I was going to lose. I got very fortunate with those Oxes and Sam drawing into nothing, allowing me to win the game.